What's up, Campus Live fans? It's Lane here in the Campus Live studios today to bring you another edition of the Guns Blazin podcast, episode number 31. As always, I'm one of your hosts today, and alongside me for today's episode is Mr. Miller, Quinn Miller. It's a beautiful Friday here in Lubbock. How you doing, man?
It's like you said, beautiful, great day. Students are starting to move in. Starting to get into that college atmosphere, and with college, it's college football season. We talk about it. This is our favorite time of the year, so it's starting to get more and more real for us.
Absolutely. The city of Lubbock, you can feel it kind of in the air. Everything's kind of the vibe, I guess, is really starting to come back as football gets closer and closer, and it's already been a crazy day to say the least as far as Texas Tech news goes, and we will discuss all of that later with Texas Tech fall camp news, a basketball commitment today already, and our quarterback rankings for the Big 12 that we did on social media. We'll had quite the controversy in our comment section about that list, but first we just want to thank everyone for tuning in every single week, and we ask that you please make sure to like and share all of our videos, or follow and subscribe to any of our platforms where you see our content at, either the Guns Blazin podcast or Campus Live TTU, and as well as thanking all of our sponsors for the Guns Blazin podcast. First, with Roof Masters of Lubbock, fans with storm season and all of the storms we have had over the past couple of months in the Lubbock area. Actually just had a pretty good rain shower here yesterday. If you have any type of roof damages, please make sure to go check out Roof Masters of Lubbock. And of course, we want to also thank our sponsors with JSI Industries, Lone Star Golf Cars, and the Exceptional Community Hospital here in Lubbock. First section here, obviously last week we talked about practices 1 through 3. Now, today was practice number 8. There wasn't a media availability, but we can talk about, practices 4 through 7. Miller, we had talked about, I think it was up to 6 on Wednesday, or 5 maybe.
Yeah.
Whenever we had our live show at Embassy Suites. But for our podcast audience that, didn't get to see that live show, I think we can start, with practice 4. And this was a practice where I thought you could really see the first stages, just from what we were able to see of what Kenny Johnson is starting to become in this wide receiver room. And yesterday you actually heard it from Coach Juice Johnson talking about how Kenny has become the vocal leader in this room. And the way he described it almost is like he's kind of becoming it for the whole entire team with the energy that he provides every single day. This is kind of your guy who you've been talking a lot about as we have moved through practice discussion segments and stuff like that. I guess, how does it feel to hear that Kenny has really taken that step as a new guy, as the vocal leader of this receiver room?
That's great to hear. Like, coming out of Pittsburgh, the 3 years he was there, he led all ACC receivers in receiving yards, and he just brings like a certain skill set to this wide receiver room that wasn't necessarily there before, with his like return ability, and for him to recognize the situation he's in, realizing that he can better himself and potentially play on Sundays through the Tech's program. That's awesome, having that vocal leader, not really for the wide receiver room, but for all the offense. So it makes me happy to hear. I've been high on him ever since we got him, and so I'm just excited to see him, suit up on Saturdays.
Yeah, Kenny is going to be maybe, the most underrated piece on this whole entire offense that no one is really giving enough love to heading into the season. But also in this practice too, just a continuation. This will kind of be a theme of what we have gotten to see, at least on air, of quarterback Will Hammond. He's looked good throwing on air to his receivers, looked very sharp. And, from the practice clips you see posted on social media, you can see him have his mobility somewhat back. You're seeing him move outside the pocket and throw for touchdowns, something he's so great at. And I think you've really seen him, improve as a player, even in this short amount of time coming back from that ACL injury, Miller.
No, that's great to hear. Obviously he's not going to come back 100% with his ACL injury. The fact that he's already going to be able to play week 1, like there was some doubts in our mind, kind of heading into this season, like will he be ready to play? Are we going to have to rely on Francis to kind of lead the offense? But like hearing that, and that he'll be able to go week 1, kind of get his feet underneath him, because we do have a really tough matchup week 3 with the Houston Cougars. So if he can get there, start to gain some confidence back, get his feet underneath him, with the offense that surrounds him, Terrence Carter, kind of being that security blanket, the best running back room in all of college football. They're kind of backing him up. I think he's really poised for a great comeback. And, we'll kind of talk about Will more whenever we talk about our quarterback rankings, but just the way that you've talked about him, because you've been out at practices and some of the clips we've seen, he can be legit, and we've projected him to have a better year than Baron Morton last year. So this could be dangerous.
Yeah, I think Will is going to have a better year than what you saw Baron have last year. I think, and this is no disrespect to Baron,
No, none.
He is the only quarterback in the history of Texas Tech that led them to a Big 12 championship. He will always have that credit under his name. And he did play, good against BYU in both of those games. So can't take anything away from Barron. But from a talent standpoint and perspective, Will Hammond has legit NFL, like a high NFL draft pick potentially one day, because not just of his arm talent, but his athletic ability and the pocket as well. But around Will, this year there's going to be so many weapons, and one of those weapons I wanted to talk about is Jacoby Williams. Jacoby, he has been such a versatile player throughout his career. Started off as a receiver, moved to running back, obviously. Now he's like in this Malachi Toney role that you're hearing about. Jacoby, and in the return game too.
Yes,
You saw him return a touchdown against Oklahoma State last year in a kickoff return. Jacoby is a Swiss Army knife, and you also heard from Juice Johnson yesterday. I'd asked him, is he cross-training, at wide receiver as well, and he had said, he kind of winked at me and was like, well, we have him working in the slot. Obviously they have big plans for Jacoby this year, not just in the running back room. I think he is going to be the Swiss Army knife of this offense, Miller.
I know we talked about this on the live show the other night. With Joyner getting hurt last season, Jacoby Williams supposed to be running back 3, got shifted up to RB2 with Cam Dickey, and not really an RB2 because they split a lot of reps. And for him to kind of have that mentality to stay with Tech whenever Joyner came back, because he could have transferred out and gone and been the running back 1 somewhere else. But for him to say, you know what, I'm going to stay here, support, and the fact that he does have that kind of wide receiver background, he does have the return game, he will be utilized like a Malachi Toney role. And you said it, like he's one of the most impressive pieces coming out of this fall camp. So I'm really excited to see how he's being utilized with the Red Raider offense and for the special teams.
Yeah, and another thing I wanted to talk about Jacoby with too is, which we're about to kind of get in this drill that I watched, which might be my favorite drill I've watched throughout this whole entire fall camp, and it's also his pass blocking ability. You heard about this, I guess, throughout the offseason, that obviously he's gotten bigger, more physical, but seeing it play out in real time, guarding or having to block Ben Roberts in a pass rushing drill and having to block other linebackers, bigger safeties. Jacoby's only about 185 pounds. He did not lose one single rep in that pass blocking drill. So just add that to his, I guess, toolbox, because
his arsenal,
of how good of a player and just everything different he can do and provide for you. Jacoby is going to be a tremendous player for Texas Tech this year. But another guy in the offense that has been impressive, a younger player, obviously a freshman. Still, we'll have to see if he manages to get into that 6 to 7 guy rotation at the wide receiver position that you've heard Coach Johnson talk about. But Chase Campbell, obviously local kid from Friendship here in the area. Throughout the 7 practices we've gotten to be able to see, he had one of the most spectacular catches we've seen, just an insane one-handed catch in a one-on-one period, actually. So this wasn't on air. Going against a defensive back, having to make a move, and he, reached behind him and basically caught it like a baseball glove almost. Chase he obviously was one of the top receivers in the whole entire country, and just another weapon. And this is a guy that probably won't get to play as much as maybe he probably would have last year if he was in this wide receiver room. But Chase is one of the key pieces of this like future for this room, and he is a tremendous player.
No, that's great to hear. I know we've talked about it, how deep our wide receiver room is, how much rotation we have, how much depth, how much unique skill sets these guys bring to the table, and for him to like come in, freshman, learning under some of these guys like Coy Eakin, like Micah Hudson. I think Micah can really benefit teaching him, because Micah was a 5-star.
Yeah.
He didn't play his freshman year, and he's like, this is going to kind of be his breakout season. And so for him to kind of be there to talk to him, trying to tell him to trust the process, I think it'll work out, because, I mean, college isn't a one-year thing. I know with how transfers and everything is going on right now, it can be a 1 year, but if he sticks to the program, he could be a potentially dangerous, maybe all big 12 wide receiver in the future.
Absolutely. Chase has the ability to be a very high draft pick one day. And another freshman I wanted to talk about, but on the defensive side of the ball, really has stood out throughout fall camp so far. He should be a senior in high school right now. LaDamian Guyton, the 5-star edge rusher. He has looked tremendous throughout practice, and you're starting to hear, kind of the whispers of maybe he could even be a contributor this year, even as young as he is. I think you're definitely going to see LaDamian get real reps in game because of how talented he is. And when you go out there and watch him, I saw him yesterday. He'd been wearing long sleeves every single day. Yesterday was the first time you didn't get to see him with long sleeves on. Coach McGuire had said the other day that he looks like David Bailey and Romello Hyde already. I can 100% back that up. LaDamian, I can't even imagine what he is going to look like in like year 3 in this strength and conditioning program. He is massive already as a freshman, and I think he could be a very key contributor from the very beginning for this defense heading into this season.
Yeah, we've talked about it, how good Tech facilities are, and just like having him here as early as he's 17 years old. Like, where were you when you were 17?
Yeah.
I was behind my Xbox
Yeah.
playing video games, and he's here working out, getting reps in with, Trick and White, getting that experience. Like, these are 2 NFL caliber guys that he's looking up to and learning from. And also, Joey talking about how the defense has really taken him under his wing, because he should be in high school still.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's already out here, he's committed. I would just like to see, he came out here in the fall. What would have happened if he came out early on in the winter and early spring? But this is going to be huge for us. And, he carries himself like the 5-star athlete he is. And so just in a couple of years, you're just going to see this huge transformation, because he is only 17. What is he going to look like when he's 19, 20, 21? Like, will he even still be here? Is he going to be, playing in the NFL? So I think this is really great. And I think this kind of is showing you where the future of Lubbock, Texas Tech specifically, is going, as going to be one of these, hopefully eventually a true blue blood of college football.
Yeah, and you start to look at this past recruiting class was the highest rated in the history of the program, and you look at this 2027 class right now, obviously top 10 in the country. I saw the other day a graphic posted by On3 and Rivals that Texas Tech right now sits, I think, at the 7th spot for the highest blue chip ratio for classes in the country at 72%.
It's insane.
That is elite level of blue chip ratio. That's something that Texas Tech has never had in a recruiting class. And
Can hardly even imagine.
Yeah, and for this upcoming recruiting class is going to be added in as well. Obviously, not here yet. Obviously that some guys could leave, or you could add some more into it, but just speaks to where this program is headed towards, kind of like how you just spoke about. The talent is just going to keep getting better and better, and I think you're obviously going to eventually turn into a perennial national championship contender year in and year out.
Yeah, I think we have 2 top 10 recruits coming in for the Sweeney and
Jalen Brewster
and Brewster. Like, that's unheard of. Like, if you would have told any Red Raider fan 10 years ago, like, y'all are going to start competing for some of these top prospects, they wouldn't believe you, because that's not who we were. That's not what Texas Tech was football-wise. And for the fact that we're kind of turning the tide and we're starting to get these 5-star commits, because they've seen it. Like, we had 7 guys drafted last year, David Bailey going as high as pick number 2. Like, they have a real shot of becoming pros through the Texas Tech football program.
Yeah, it's crazy. You look at some of the graphics, too, for, like, the top-rated Texas players and the whole entire state. Texas Tech has 8 of them, and potentially could even have more on that list, depending on how others their high school season goes. If they get ranked higher at the end of the year or something like that. Back in the day, that would have been littered with Texas or A&M or maybe Baylor in their heyday or TCU or something like that.
SMU now competing.
Yeah, and the fact that Texas Tech is 8 of the top 10 players in the state of Texas right now that they have committed, absolutely unreal, and just speaks to, like we said, the level this program is at. And I guess kind of moving on from that type of conversation with the talent that is on this roster and could be in the future, availability wise, I think in our last time we talked about practice, Julian Laventure was still out. And we'll get deeper into probably a bigger news cycle as far as injury goes in our injury report segment later. But Julian Laventure in this particular past couple of days has returned. He no longer has a wrap on his hand. He is in every single drill at the defensive tackle spot, and he's going to be a huge piece in this defensive tackle room. At that, going to be second string behind AJ and Mateen Iburugba, and Julian is a very, very talented player. He's a high-effort guy, and it's good to see him back.
It's great to see him back. It's glad the injury wasn't anything too serious. I mean, Burns, that could mess up his hand, how his stance is getting down. But for him to, already be back, wraps off, that's perfect.
Yeah. My favorite thing I wanted to talk about, though, definitely throughout, I guess, all of fall camp so far was a pass rushing drill the first day of full pads that came on. There was a ton of different notes to take from this, but easily the biggest of the whole entire segment was seeing Austin Romaine work as a pass rusher from the inside and off the edge. It did not matter who was in front of him. Austin was kicking everyone's butt in this drill. And you could see it about in his fourth or fifth rep in this, he was really starting to feel himself and win every rep, and people were starting to take notice. You heard the cheers and hollers whenever he just kept winning every rep he was doing, and that's including going against Jacob Ponton at right tackle, going against some of the running backs, some of the tight ends as well. Austin has been such a huge add to this room because of what Jacob Rodriguez meant to this team last year. But I think Austin, maybe not as far as creating turnovers like Jacob did last year, but as far as what he can add in the pass rushing game, he is extremely talented, and it was pretty crazy to watch how good of a pass rusher he was the other day.
Yeah, I know we've talked about it before, going and getting him from Kansas State, bringing him in, trying to we've said it, filling that hole that Rodriguez left, but I don't think that's really fair to Austin because he has a different play style, different set of skills that Jacob didn't have, and they're two different players, and that's not fair to Austin because of the elite ability he brings to this defense, this linebacking room. Which, we saw the other day, the Butkus Award watch list came out. We're the only team that has all three linebackers in there with Curry, Roberts, and now Romaine. But for him to be able to step into this role, take it head on. And last season he was elite and he only had one hand. So he's got both his hands back available. And I just think this linebacking room maybe won't force the turnovers that, like you said, that Jacob was able to, but the amount of pressure that we can bring, especially certain blitz packages with the 4-3, I think this is a huge addition. And it's great to hear that he's really kind of settled into that role and doesn't feel all this pressure and this overwhelming amount of all these eyes on him. Is he going to be the next Jacob? Is he going to be on a Heisman candidate potentially? He's really taken it into the strides with it, and he's no, I'm going to be my own self. I'm going to be Austin Romaine, and I'm going to come out here, play hard, create opportunities for the defense. So I think this is huge.
Yeah, Austin, he has a extremely high IQ. He is going to be a tremendous player for this Texas Tech team this year. And another standout I wanted to point out on the offensive side, we had already talked about Jacoby Williams being impressive in this drill earlier, but new right guard Jordan Church, I don't think he actually lost a rep either. And you could tell, when you get these run graded, very highly run graded guards out of the portal or wherever you get them from, a lot of times they have a little bit of a mean streak to them. They finish reps even if it's maybe a little bit after the whistle, but that's what you love to see on your offensive line. And Jordan the other day, kind of like Austin, just opposite Really didn't matter who was lining up in front of him, and he was going to
Good.
definitely till the end of the at the end
That's
of the
what
whistle.
we need, though.
But that's what you need though, and I think he adds some nastiness to this offensive line, and I think like he was last year, he was a very highly graded pass rush or blocker, but also one of the highest run graded guards in the whole entire country. I think Jordan Church might be one of the most underrated adds to this whole entire team, Miller.
Yeah, Louisville found a lot of success last season through the run game, and a big part of that was Jordan Church and his run blocking ability. And for him to come in, and we talked about it on the live show, like that nastiness, you need that, especially like in the trenches, like show some like true West Texas grit, get out there, finish through the play. We kind of missed that last year. We didn't have that kind of nastiness on the offensive line, and so I think our run game is. I think we're gonna have the best run game in the country.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna look back on the season and we're like, wow, we really dominated. I know last episode on the podcast I bought on saying that we're gonna have two 1,000-yard rushers, and I still believe it. I know it might be hard. I think Dickey's gonna get the 1,000 mark. Joyner might get around 800, 900, but I could definitely see him breaking the 1,000 threshold, and I think a lot of that's going to come through Jordan Church.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I like that you brought up Quentin Joyner. I think, honestly, it would be more possible if it was Dickey and Joyner because of where Jacoby is going to be in so many different spots. He's not just going to be at running back like those two, he's in the slot, or if he's completely on the outside of at X or whatever. I think that's a great point. I think Quentin, obviously still having to fully recover from his knee injury. He's completely cleared, obviously going through practice, but Coach McGuire did say they haven't put him in any red zone drills yet. Yeah. So just trying to contain him for the whole season. You don't really need him working in those red zone drills. So I think that's a great point. I think Cam and Quentin could definitely both potentially end up over 1,000 yards. I think Cam for sure, though. And we'll have some more season predictions like we did last week, like a buy or sell, a little different version of that here in a second. That'll be fun to watch. I think a really cool rep in that drill, too, was seeing Terrence Carter and Bryce Pollock go against each other. Maybe two of the best players at their positions in the country. Bryce got the better of him one rep. Terrence got the better of him on one rep. And it's just really cool to see that level of talent. Maybe two first-round picks one day.
Potentially.
Just going against
iron
each other.
Sharpens iron, so that's great. I mean, that goes to talking about, like, the culture that we've been building and what Tech's been doing. Like, you're having two of the elite at their position going against each other in practice. So whenever you get there to game days and these guys are looking up at who's lining against them, and you're like, man, this is who I'm guarding? Or like, this is who I'm about to cook them, So it's great that they get to go against each other in practice at such a high level because it's going to translate to the field.
Absolutely. And, probably our last, practice point, someone who really haven't, seen, I guess, talked about a lot, and I don't know, what happened throughout all of practice, but in the period I did see, besides Will Hammond, looking very, very good on air. I thought Kirk Francis had a good day yesterday, and
let's go.
I thought he had a good day yesterday. Watching him throw on air, and I saw a highlight later on in the day working with the number 2 offense of him throwing a impressive ball of him stepping up in the pocket in traffic to Malcolm Simmons, and it looked like it was a play that ended up being a pretty big gain. So hopefully, continuing to see development all over the roster, even at your backup quarterback position as well. So thought that was cool to see.
Love to hear it.
Yeah, and that'll kind of move us into our Lone Star Golf Cars drive of the game. Fans, if you are in the golf cart business, you're a big golfer, or you need any type of that needs, please go check out LoneStarGolfCars.com. They have very cool designs and different types of golf cars that you can choose from. And they actually have a store here in Lubbock at 8507 Urbana Avenue, once again here in town in Lubbock. So if you have any type of those needs, please go check out Lone Star Golf Cars. We did the buy or sell last week. Yep. I think this is kind of a variation of that, but it's a fun topic. Too high, too low, or just right. Okay. First off, we got quite a bit here. I think this would be a pretty big or pretty fun segment. First off, talking about the receivers, too high, too low, or just right. Texas Tech will rotate 7 wide receivers consistently this season.
We definitely could. I think that might be too high because I think there's going to be definitely some play that steps out. I think with your four guys, like you're going to have Coy Eakin, Micah Hudson, Malcolm Simmons, and King Johnson kind of rotating. And I think as the season progresses, they're going to kind of take more of a leadership role and a forward role. So I think I'm going to say too high, but I think we definitely could be rotating 7, especially early on in these early season games.
Yeah, I think it might just be a little too because the word consistently is in there.
Yeah, that's what.
And I know Coach Johnson yesterday had said they can go 6 to 7 guys deep 100%. I think they could even go 10 guys honestly. With Chase Campbell, Bryson Jones, Leighton Stone, you throw him in there. But I think consistently is that word where I think it might be a little too high. I think 6 might be your number,
I think that's good,
or 5, where you are consistently seeing that every single game, no matter what it is, even if it's a really close game. I think your top 3 are pretty solidified with Kenny, Micah, and Coy. I think Jalen Jones is your 4th guy in that rotation, 100%. Everyone keeps talking about his ability as a player. He was highly productive at Alabama State, even though that was FCS level. Jalen, it sounds like he's really caused some issues for the secondary in practice. I think Dante Lee has shown a ton of promise as well. You mentioned Malcolm Simmons on there as well. Bryson Jones, you've heard Coach McGuire talk about him, and then the other guys as well, Chase and Leighton Stone, stuff like that. But I think those first 5 or 6 are really what you're going to see consistently throughout the year. But
especially you were talking about Jacoby, and even you got
because Jacoby's got to be in there somewhere.
Yeah, and then Terrence Carter too. So I think the word consistently kind of throws it off, but I think that's too high.
Speaking of Jacoby Williams,
all right,
does he finish with 1,500 all-purpose yards this year? Too high, too low, or just right? He had 1,200 last year.
He had 1,200 last year.
I think it was on the dot, 1,200.
Yeah, I think it was just around then. I think I'm going to say too high just for the fact that Joyner's coming back, and you also have Kenny Johnson helping in the return game. I could easily see him hitting that threshold. I think that might be a little too high. If you would have said maybe 13, I could say, I could see him doing that. But especially, having Joyner back, he's not going to be taking as many reps as running back. But the way they've been talking about him, I could easily see him getting that 1,500.
I think this is where it comes into the fact that if he's one of the starting kick returners, I think he definitely hits this.
Could hit it.
But, like you said, they've been rotating, at least we saw in the spring, they were rotating like 5 guys back there because they have that ability now because everyone's healthy. I think if Jacoby is one of your starting kick returners, I think this is just right. I think right there,
I'd be fine. Yeah,
at that 1,500 mark, he's going to hit it with obviously the receiving and the rushing, and I think if he is one of the starting kick returners, I think 1,500 is just about right. But next, Will Hammond throws for over 3,500 yards. Too low, too high, or just right?
I would say just right, maybe even too low, especially like we've talked about like the weapons he has around him and everything. And the only reason that I could see him maybe not getting there is because of our schedule. If we're winning games at halftime, there's no need to put him out there to the 3rd and 4th quarter, maybe the 3rd quarter, but like you're not going to see him play much of the 4th if we're dominating these games. And that's kind of how we've predicted the schedule is going to go, and especially some of the matchups we have really favor us. So I think I will say just right. He definitely could do it with the weapons around him. You have the best tight end in the country. You have one of the deepest receiving rooms in the country, best running back room behind him, the best O-line in the Big 12. I'm going to say just right.
Yeah, I agree. I think just right is probably the correct answer here because, like you said with the schedule, there could be a potential where he's not even playing second half. That's when you're missing out on those yards. And you got to think of how good our running game is going to be this year. I think anywhere, maybe even because of our schedule, if he misses those games early on in the year, hopefully at the end of the year he's making that up while we're in the playoffs, the Big 12 championship, where he is playing full games like that, where he can make that 3,500-yard mark. I think it's just right, though.
Oh, yeah, just right.
On the point there. Hopefully, we're playing 15, 16 games. So Texas Tech finishes once again with a top 5 defense nationally.
Too low.
Wow.
Top three.
Okay.
Top three nationally. I mean, we have the pieces there.
Yeah.
Obviously, like we talked about it, our weakest position group is the safeties. If we could have got Coy Perch, I think that would have really bolstered our defense and really made us like well-rounded. I think we have all the pieces to finish top 3 nationally, and especially with like again our schedule and some of the offenses we're going to have to face. I think we will finish top 3, so too low.
Yeah, I think top 5. I think it's just right. I think you're going to be in there somewhere in the mix. And I like that you brought up the safety position. I think, Coy Parrish obviously would have been an insane ad as well. But after talking with the safeties today and with Peyton Morgan and Oliver and Malik, I think these guys, I think that all 3 of them are ready. I think all 3 of them are ready to start. I think they all 3 bring different attributes to their game, and I think that's why you keep hearing BJ Jordan flip-flopping at each position. I don't know if you're gonna see like a true starter, I guess, so to speak. I think ultimately it's probably Peyton Morgan on paper listed as the starter, but Malik Esquera, 6'3", 200 maybe 20 pounds right now as a safety, that is massive.
Huge.
And we heard him talk about today, being able to play in the box, close to the line of scrimmage, kind of like what Cole Wisniewski did last year, and he's bigger than Cole. I think you're going to see these different, I guess, formations where you're throwing in an Oliver and Malik, but then also Peyton kind of back there as your ball hawk. He could end up being close to leading the team with interceptions with Bryce Pollock this year because of how talented he is at taking the ball away. So I think, maybe the exaggeration, I guess, this whole offseason talking about the safety room, it might have been overhyped a little bit. We talked about this the other day. I think you obviously have BJ Jordan. He's going to be tremendous once again, one of the best safeties in the Big 12 and in the country this year. But I think you really have some talent next to him this year, and I'm interested to see really how it ends up playing out. But I agree with this defense as a whole. You return Bryce Pollock, Ben Roberts, AJ Holmes. I mean, John Curry too. Like this defense is going to be tremendous and one of the best in the country once again.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, like we talked about before, this safety group is unproven, and I think they're going to see and recognize like what's ahead of them defensive wise and how they have to take that next step. They have to be better to fully connect with that team. This team, I would say BJ Jordan's probably the second best safety in the Big 12 behind Johnson out of TCU. But I really think they are unproven. With our positions we have defensively, I think it wasn't fair to the safety group saying like they're weak, because anywhere else they're going to look strong, like a consistent group. But with the defense that we have, they might look weak compared to them.
Yeah.
I mean, once again, unproven.
Yeah.
So.
Next, and this could end up just being our last question of this segment. Does LaDainian Guyton become a legitimate rotational player by conference play?
Just right. I think so. Right. I think so. We've talked about it, how he carries himself, who he has in front of him, taking him under his wing, just the type of player he is. Like, he carries that 5-star tag with pride. He knows he's a 5-star. He has to act like it. He has that mentality of a 5-star. He's here early to better himself, and he has a real shot of developing into a future NFL player, a future first-round pick. And I think the way he wants to push himself and the way that he has to push himself with who he has in front of him, with Adam Trick, with Trey White, I think by conference play he will be getting some reps, having a key rotation.
Yeah, 100%. I think you hit the nail right there on the head. I think LaDainian is so talented. What he's shown so far, obviously, all these guys got to stay healthy, of course. Yeah. So hopefully, obviously, stays healthy. Because I think the transition, you should be a senior in high school, and then you make that transition to college that quickly.
That's a huge jump.
Yeah, huge jump. So. Obviously, hopefully, he stays healthy all year, where you can see him maybe by the end of the year, where he's really playing a ton. I think LaDamian's going to be a pretty. I think he's going to be a bigger player than people out there think he's going to be, for sure. But yeah, that'll kind of wrap up our too high, too low, or just right segment. And quickly, just wanted to talk about our injury report segment. Fans, it's time for this week's injury report presented by the Exceptional Community Hospital. And before we hop into the injury report, just want to take a moment to recognize the Exceptional Community Hospital as a proud sponsor of Campus Live and the Guns Blazin podcast. And be sure to visit their 24/7 state-of-the-art hospital and ER located at 6401 Spur 327 in Lubbock. They accept all insurances and have short ER wait times. And once again, the Exceptional Community Hospital is proud to support this week's injury report on Campus Live. Really, the only one here to talk about is Mateen Ibarogba. Comes back, he missed those 2 practices. Sounds like it was just a knee bruise. He was at practice yesterday going through drills. That is massive. He was the top transfer defensive tackle in the whole entire country, and he's going to be one of the most important players on this whole entire team for this season.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about, it's just a knee bruise. It's all precautionary. You don't want to keep forcing him to play, especially when he's proven. Like we've talked about it, the amount of wear and tear that these guys go through, and he's already proven himself to be an elite level, obviously being the highest defensive tackle in the portal. So he doesn't really have anything to prove out there. We know he can get it done. So just precautionary, wear that knee brace, wear the knee sleeve, whatever, like take some time off, fully recover. You don't need to push yourself. You're not a third or second string trying to prove something, trying to prove you belong. You already belong. Obviously, we went out and got you, paid you whatever amount of money it is to come play for us. So just, hearing that, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think Joey's and the team, we trust them. Like we said, we have one of the best medical staffs in the country and with some of the best facilities in the country, so he'll be good.
Yeah, and staying on the the topics of injuries, quickly we're going to do our Paving the Way to Victory segment. Fans, JSI Services is a proud partner of Campus Live, and be sure to visit their website at jsiservicesllc.com to learn about their asphalt/paving services, earth and dirt works, concrete and gutter paving, crack fill, seal coating, and stripping services. And thank you so much once again to JSI Services for their proud support of Campus Live and the Guns Blazin podcast. With tomorrow being the first scrimmage, honestly, this is the only thing I care about. It is everyone staying healthy. That is my paving the way to victory for tomorrow. That's all I care about. No one getting injured. I would imagine they're going to do thud tempo, probably maybe 1 or 2 periods where, the guys are actually being taken to the ground. But that's my paving the way to victory. I am obviously interested to see who, wins the day, so to speak, whether it's the offense or defense. But most importantly to me it is just keeping everyone healthy.
Yeah, stay healthy. You going to be out there?
We will have a media availability with Coach McGuire. Won't be able to watch, but yeah.
That'll be good. So, stay healthy. No need to do anything. No need to prove yourself. No need to be a hero. Stay healthy.
Yeah. That'll wrap up our Texas Tech football talk here on episode 31 of the Guns Blazin podcast. Next, though, Texas Tech basketball just keeps on having these Friday little news dumps. Earlier today, Bassala Bagayoko did announce his commitment to the Red Raiders, the international center from Spain, a very talented and young player, only 19 years old, stands at 6'10", and he is a very interesting background. At 14 years old, was the youngest player ever to debut in the top Spanish league for Real Madrid, the basketball team version, of course. At 14 years old, he was getting reps in the top league in Spain. It just speaks to how talented he is. A couple of years ago, was actually projected to be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft. So when he was younger, before he actually tore his ACL and meniscus, I think it was in 2022 or 2023 where he missed 2 seasons and returned this year for his first season back. Had a very good year, and I encourage you all to go watch his highlights on YouTube. Go find his highlights from this past year. This guy has insane highlight. He has an elite level of athleticism. Not only that, he is a pretty talented passer from the high post and near the block, near the rim. you see him some around the back passes,
Yeah.
some no look passes. Him down there with Stillwell, Darion, JT when he comes
Hmm.
back, Josiah Mosley. I mean, and the guards when they're cutting, you can see him. He has a great vision passing the ball. Not only that, in his game, he has the ability to knock down an occasional 3-pointer as well.
It's insane.
And he has a great form. It's not a corky form you sometimes see from big men. This is a huge add for the Red Raiders, and now you have a true center to your roster, one you didn't have last year. Huge ad.
This is great. I
Yeah.
mean, right before we came onto the podcast, I was
Yeah.
watching some highlights, and he was knocking down threes. I'm like, this is who we're getting.
Yeah.
Like the amount, and especially with the Tech kind of like play, like their MO of being like a 3-point specialist team. I think he's gonna really come in here, develop. I mean, he has great form. You talked about it. It's
Right.
not like a clunky center like when you
Yeah.
think. What was that shot he
Yeah.
just threw up? No, he looks legit. It's very smooth, and the way he like really can be a court general, and you see him. I mean, it helps when you're 6'10". He
Yeah.
just holds a ball over his hand and he's pointing, telling people, calling out plays. Kind of moving pieces around. He has a high level IQ, and
You can tell.
You can tell,
Yeah.
like just the way he handles himself, just the way he's pointing, moving people around to open up these spaces, and like you talked about, he's an elite passer. I don't know what it is with all these European bigs.
Yeah.
You think of like Wemby, Sarr. These are guys like he kind of like models his game after. And I mean, you think of Wemby when you think of like
Right.
these centers, these foreign centers. I mean, maybe Jokic, like, kind of different, but with Bags, like the way that he's going to be able to kind of like compete here. And McCaslin's a great coach, one of the best in the Big 12. You can make a case like one of
Yeah.
the best in the nation for what he brings and the way he can really develop these players. I think this is going to be a fun team to watch this year, especially with the additions. D5 coming back, JT Toppin coming back from his injury. He stayed, he could have gone. You go get Jermichael Stillwell, and then all the other additions, Cruz Davis running point. I think this is a guy that really just like strength adds another layer of depth to your team, and it'll be interesting to see like how McCaslin utilizes a big, especially since last season we didn't have a big. And we still were a top team, and we still were a top
Yeah.
team. We competed. Yeah, we kind of like all the wheels fell off near the end with all the injuries and just the unfortunalities that happened with that. But I think this team, I would say now, like with this addition, could be a national championship contender.
100%. I think this team 100% right now, and this isn't even with another potential ex-Red Raider maybe being added to the roster as well.
No.
Yeah. And if you added him, I think you actually have the best team on paper in all of college basketball next year.
100%.
That might be a hot take to some people out there, whether you're thinking of Duke or Louisville or whoever else.
Illinois.
But, or Illinois. But I think if you obviously if you add if Donovan Atwell were to come back to this program, it's obviously speculation right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to add him back to this team as well, this is the best team on paper, at least in my opinion, in all of college basketball, and they are 100% a national championship contender. And like I said, I think that would put them preseason top 5.
I would too. If Atwell comes back, like this is like that was a guy that I thought could easily sign. Like he was
Yeah.
getting it done in the
Yeah.
summer league. I just don't know why a team didn't like take a chance on him. His 3-point ability is insane. I know he went 6 for 6 one game with the Bulls from the
Yeah.
3-point line. So if you can add him back, I would agree that we could be a preseason top 5 team. And when you look at our pre-conference schedule, Illinois, Louisville, and Duke, those are all like
Yeah.
national championship contending teams. And if you can go and hang with them, beat them, this can show real promise, and you're going to take all that momentum into conference play with some of the Big 12 games you have. So this is real exciting. At the beginning of the year, we were like, what are we going to do? Like I honestly thought this could have been McCaslin's last year, but trust the process. He went out and got his guys, and I think if all clicks, if it all works well, you can see McCaslin staying the head coach, and this could be the best Red Raider basketball team we've ever seen.
Yeah, and I think, an underrated piece that, like, I think a lot of people are missing is the fact that you have Dakari Spear on this team
Yeah.
as well. This guy was one of the best players in the whole entire country, 5-star on different sites. And, this is a guy that could just end up being like your sixth man.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how talented this team is. And he is just another piece, that is on this team that I think hasn't been even talked about a lot around the country. He is an elite 3-level scorer. Obviously, to play a McCasland system, you have to be an extremely good defender. I'm sure he obviously is working on that right now as well, but this team is going to be insane. And it's so crazy how quickly things can change in this era of college sports in general. And now you were looking at one of the best rosters in all of college basketball.
This is huge. I'm so excited just talking about it. I'm like, obviously we have football season, but what a year it is going to be for the Red Raiders. You go football straight into basketball. Like we're going to have a great time September to March.
100%. And that'll kind of wrap up our college basketball talk for today. Obviously, that's something we'll, when we get closer to October and November, you'll definitely start to see more and more of that to come out as kind of the roster is winding to a close here for Texas Tech. But last segment here today, we had quite the controversy for our
what do we not?
Yeah. Our Big 12 quarterback rankings. Honestly, I think where you can maybe change some of this is maybe with Alonzo Barnett and Jaden Craig being higher. But honestly, with our top 7, I think our top 7 are locked in there. I don't really, obviously some Utah fans came in there. They were coming after us.
So annoying.
And other fans in there with us having Will Hammond at number 2. If you're projecting quarterback rankings, you have to project team rankings with them. And I believe if Will Hammond has the year that, like we said last year, or not last year, earlier in this show and on our last show on Wednesday, if Will Hammond has a better year than Baron Morton, is any sort of threat on the ground coming back from his knee, throws for close to 3,500 yards, he will be a first-team All-Big 12 quarterback, because he led the best team in the conference.
I mean, that's what it is. That's all it is. Like, it's not just individually that we're ranking you out. Like we said, we have to think about teams. We have at number 1 Fafita, who I think the Wildcats are going to probably finish 8-4. I wouldn't be surprised if they finish 7-5. And so you're not going to give a 7-5 quarterback the first team spot. It's going to be the team that goes 12-0, 13-0 with the conference title. So, I mean, and we know it. We see it. A lot of people, with the whole Sorsby drama, I think are really underrating Will Hammond and, kind of overlooking him in a way. You see, he had a bad game against Arizona State. I don't think that was his fault. And he is coming off the injury, so a bunch of people are kind of like overlooking him, overrating him. And I think he could do it. I think he will probably finish first team Big 12 if the way we project Tech's schedule goes and everything. And just the weapons around him.
Yeah.
Like, anywhere you look, you have elite level of talent around with the backfield, with Terrence Carter, Moose Ludwig,
and a better offensive line.
I mean, I'm looking at it here, and I think, we could have easily put him at 1. We could have.
Yeah, I mean, and I think where you saw some. I think honestly the biggest conversation on here I've seen was about Cutter Boley being at number 8, and
it's just projected.
And the reason we put him there, I know people had said there's technically a quarterback competition at Arizona State. First off, you're not paying a quarterback to come in for millions of dollars to go sit on your bench, and he did have a pretty good year as a true freshman starting in the SEC last year for Kentucky. And he has the best starting wide receiver core in the Big 12 with Omarion Miller and Reed Harris, who are huge adds. And if he is in that offense, the respect that we have for Kenny Dillingham, Cutter's going to put up big numbers. Yeah, I saw people saying he's going to throw a bunch of interceptions. Well, even if he does that, he's probably going to throw for like 35 touchdowns as well. So, like, if he has that many touchdowns, yes, if he throws, 10 to 12 interceptions, he is going to be in the top half of this league quarterback ranking-wise. And I just have so much respect for Kenny Dillingham. His teams are always good. Heck, he had Jeff Sims starting at quarterback last year for them, like the last 4 games, and they still went 8-4.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, I mean, the offensive mindset that Kenny has, the way he can lead his team. I mean, Arizona State was the Big 12 champion a couple seasons ago. Went down to the wire with Texas. I mean, a lot of people said they probably should have won with that whole targeting call late in the fourth. I mean, I think that was targeting. I think everyone thought it was targeting unless you're a Texas fan.
Yeah.
But, like you said, you bring Amarian Miller in. You had Jordan Tyson last year. Like, Cutter Boley's going to have the pieces around him. And even what he did last year at Kentucky, like, as a true freshman, was kind of impressive. Once again, to bring up Texas, like, they had Texas on the ropes. They had some really good games. I mean, when you think of Kentucky, you don't think of football. And so the fact that, he kind of stepped in and took that role as a true freshman, he's just going to get better and better. And I think this offense suits him better, and the style of the Big 12 plays suits him better.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess, the guy on here maybe with the highest ceiling is Drew Mestemaker. You've seen him be projected as even on some as like the top 3 pick in the NFL draft next year. I had Oklahoma State as my most underrated team heading into the season, but it still remains to be seen though if Drew and all of these guys can play at the Power 4 level. And as much as respect I have for Eric Morris, I think he's a tremendous coach, ex-Red Raider. Love the guy. Having him, at that 3 spot, once again, we're talking about team success, almost always is tied to your quarterback. I just, having Fafita and Hammond over them, we just believe that they're going to have better years and better team success more than likely than Oklahoma State is. Their offense could be tremendous this year, 100%. Caleb Hawkins, Wyatt Young, but in the trenches, they are going to struggle. And I think that they will, make a bowl game this year. And being 1-11 last year, that's a huge success,
Just a complete turnaround.
But having, Drew at the 3 spot right here, I think it's fair to have him there because he has not proven it in the Power 4 level yet.
Yeah, I mean, when you look back to their championship game against Tulane, he looked unrecognizable.
Yeah.
I don't know what was going on, if there's something behind the scenes. Like, that whole North Texas offense didn't look like how they played the rest of the season, but you pretty much bring them all over to Oklahoma State. Morris brings all his guys that he wants, and I agree with you. They have such a good offense. I really like Wyatt Young. I think he could be, he could finish like in all Big 12 teams. I just would agree 3 is probably the best spot because when you do think about team success, you're going to think about the Red Raiders. We could have put, Bear over him.
Yeah.
With if we're doing team success only, because BYU is the better team. But as far as like the highest ceiling, it has to go to Drew.
For sure. And, people were, I think there was a lot of Utah fans that were complaining that Devin Dampier was at number 5. I understand, but, for what y'all lost on this team, and I think Devin is a talented player, but he struggled quite a bit, especially throwing down the field last year.
He didn't have a deep ball.
Yeah, and he's a tremendous athlete. Obviously, probably if you're talking straight dual threat, he is probably the best in the whole entire conference as far as dual threat goes. Probably up there with Fafita and Avery Johnson maybe. So there's a ton of dual threat guys. Bear Brockmeyer as well, but ton of Utah fans were in there saying he should be number 1 and all this stuff. First off, he doesn't have the weapons to be number 1. They Wayshawn Parker, great running back, but you don't throw it to the running back very much. I think they're going to struggle at the wide receiver position this year. New head coach, I think you're replacing basically your whole entire offensive line, including 2 first-rounders. I think Utah, as easy as their schedule is this year, 100% could go 9-3 because of how easy their schedule is. But I think that Utah, especially from last year, takes quite a step back this year.
I would agree with you. It's hard to, like you said, the offensive line, that's kind of like, they're protecting the quarterback.
Yeah.
That's the quarterback's best friend, and you lose 2 first-rounders. New head coach, is a new offensive coordinator too.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, new offense. He's a great athlete. I just don't see him, above Bear. Like, Bear last year was a freshman, and he, like, for me, like, what we kind of rationalized with this is Bear yeah, he might be more like have that raw talent, but this is for this season.
Yeah.
This isn't based on last season's rankings. If it was last season rankings, I would probably say, Drew Messamaker won because he
Yeah.
did have a great year at North Texas. But heading in, it says preseason up there. I think Bear is going to have a better year, especially with the team success
Yeah.
and who he has around him. And I just think that's like kind of where we agreed on.
Yeah, I think Bear, like you just said, I think Bear, he's gonna have a better year
Yeah.
than Devin, straight up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess really the only other complaints we'd seen. I know there were some TCU fans in there complaining about Jaden Craig. Look, I think Jaden Craig, very talented player, talented arm for sure, but he was playing at Harvard, and I think
Yeah.
you were talking about the jump from Mestamaker to the P4, jumping from the Ivy League to the P4. That's I mean,
That's a realm.
Yeah, that's just a whole new realm of football. It just truly is. And as talented as Jaden Craig may be, I think that it could be a little difficult for TCU this year. And hey, we could be wrong on that. Maybe TCU has a really good offense this year.
I hope not.
yeah, but that's just where we had 10 there. I think honestly, like I said earlier, the only guy that we could have maybe swapped with Lagway or had an argument with Boley there at 8 and 9 is Alonzo Barnett. Obviously led JMU to the playoffs last year, but once again, at UCF, the talent around him, as great of a player as Alonzo Barnett may be, I just don't know if he is going to be able to put up the numbers to have him in that top half of this conference. I think all of these guys that are ahead of him, besides Lagway, I would say, all have better weapons.
Yeah, I would agree.
Straight up, they have the better weapons. And
once again, goes back to team success and like who he has around him, what supporting cast he has. Some guys like it'll take a lot for him to jump up. He's going to have to do a lot. He's going to have to prove himself. He's going to have to work with nothing. He's going to have to make this full course meal with table scraps.
Right. And that'll kind of wrap up our Big 12 talk. We'll have, I'm sure, a rankings of some sort, maybe another conference here over the next week or so. Maybe the SEC or the Big Ten, and I'm sure it'll draw up a bunch of controversy as well.
Gosh.
But that'll kind of wrap things up here in the Campus Live studios today. Thank you so much, fans, for tuning in to another episode of the Guns Blazin podcast. And if you're seeing this anywhere, wherever you're seeing it, please make sure to follow, like, share, or subscribe on any social media platform that you see us, either at Campus Live TTU or the Guns Blazin podcast. And remember that Campus Live is your one-stop news source for all things Texas Tech and Lubbock.
Wreck 'em.